you have mentioned that Trump has kissed the ring. What's your opinion on there are no specific people in the deep state, but the system itself designed in such a way that it acts as the deep state? In the end, the president has the highest power, but not all power. Right? That's the question. So I'm sure people must be aware of the statement that President Trump has made. And in case you're not aware, let me put that on the screen. Uh, 1 second. Give me a second. I'll put that on the screen. So he's put out a video, and this tweet by this account is essentially the gist of the video. I'm not going to play the video right now. I'm going to mute that. So what did Trump say? This is a brief statement, about 4 minutes long, roughly. So and Trump has explicitly mentioned the term deep state multiple times in this statement. And he's essentially saying that he's going after the deep state. So here's the gist. Let's read this out together. The end of the deep state. Trump's plan to dismantle the deep state and return power to the American people. And Trump says, here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats. And I will wield that power very aggressively. So he's going to go after rogue bureaucrats. Okay. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats, that term again, will never again be able to target and persecute various people. Okay, third, we will totally reform FISA courts. FISA means United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Courts. And these courts essentially, this act is all about surveilling Americans who could be working for foreign actors, essentially spies and traitors. So we will totally reform the FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications and so on. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, corruption, etc. Okay, interesting. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news media to deliberately weave false narratives and all that. So he's going after fake news. Okay, and the people who are aiding and abetting fake news. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they don't become protectors of the deep state. Okay, good. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they're not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Okay, great. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of whatever to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions can be moved out. And I mean immediately out of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America. And they really do love America. Okay, great. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats, again, from taking jobs at the companies that deal with and that they regulate. Okay, that's great. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and when they want to take jobs from these companies, doesn't work that way, and so on. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. And this is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Okay, so that's the statement that he is making. Okay, that he's going to go after the deep state. And when he talks about the deep state, he's essentially talking about the bureaucracy, the nameless, faceless, unelected, permanent bureaucracy. A lot of times he has mentioned the bureaucracy and the bureaucrats in there. And he's going to impose term limits on members of Congress. Great. I mean, Nancy Pelosi has been in Congress for God knows how many terms. Okay, so impose term limits on members of Congress, etc., and reform FISA courts and all that. So it's a lot of initiatives he's going to take. That's what he says, right? So does it not mean that he's going after the deep state? That's the question. It's a very pertinent question. And he has named the deep state multiple times in this statement. So then the question is, was I wrong that Trump may have kissed the ring? What do I mean by kissing the ring? It means making a deal with the deep state such that they will now allow him to come to power. That's what I meant, right? And apparently he's going after the deep state. Now let me put something else on the screen that may be kind of interesting. Okay, let's put something else on the screen. And this is a piece of news from 3 days ago. US central bank boss says Trump can't fire him. This is from the BBC. And this is from 3 days ago, as you can see, this piece of news. So the head of the US central bank, which is the Federal Reserve, has hit back at speculation that his post might be in jeopardy as Trump prepares to assume power in Washington. So Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said that he would not step down even if Trump asked him to step down, and that it is not permitted under law for the White House to force him out. Yeah? How about that? Will Trump be able to do a thing about the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve Bank is the American central bank. It's a central bank of the United States, just like we have the RBI in India. So the Federal Reserve is a privately owned bank. It's not owned by the government. And its ownership structure is kind of hazy and kind of shrouded in mystery, right? Who are the shareholders, etc. I mean, there is some information available about who could be the shareholders and all that, but the real shareholders are kind of shrouded in mystery. And the White House, under US law, can't make changes in here. Interesting there. Interesting. Can Trump do a thing about this? The Federal Reserve Bank controls the entire US economy and, by extension, a significant portion of the global world economy. They can, well, impact everybody across the world through whatever changes they make, the policy decisions, interest rate changes, and whatnot. So there's one example of what Trump can't do. He's going to go after the bureaucracy, the nameless, faceless bureaucracy. He's going to go after FISA courts. He's going to impose term limits on members of Congress. He's going to ensure that members of Congress and other elected people cannot have conflicts of interest and serve various corporations and things like that. Great, wonderful. So he's going to go after the bureaucracy, essentially, right? Now, let me give you a different but kind of pertinent example. Elon Musk, a couple of years ago, or whenever it was, he took over Twitter and he rebranded it to X. And Elon Musk fired 90% of Twitter's employees, didn't he? And yet, after firing 90% of Twitter's employees, Twitter is better and bigger than ever before. So getting rid of the bloat is actually good for an organization. So if Trump goes after all these nameless, faceless bureaucrats and gets rid of a whole bunch of them and imposes restrictions on them and the way, in the sense of what they can do, what they can't do, and move a whole bunch of them, 100,000 of them outside of Washington in various other parts of the US, is he going after the deep state? So now let's do some first principles thinking and analysis. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the deep state? What's the definition of the deep state? And I have given this definition or answer before multiple times. The deep state is an extra democratic, extra constitutional, extra electoral center of power in a nation. In the US, we're talking about the US here. So it's a center of power. A bunch of really powerful people who are extra democratic, means they cannot be removed democratically or whichever way. Extra constitutional, the Constitution has no mandate for these people being in having such positions of power. And extra democratic, extra electoral. You can't vote them out or whatever. It's a completely separate power center. That's the deep state. It means it's a small number of very powerful individuals who are the puppet masters, who control these institutions, these agencies, the bureaucrats, and so on. So going after the bureaucrats is wonderful, great job, but you're not going after the ones who are really in power, who really hold the reins of power. The past 4 years, Biden was not mentally present. Kamala Harris was incompetent. We all know that. And still, somebody was running the United States of America. It was running really efficiently, really well. I mean, they did mess up the economy and all, but maybe that was on purpose. Maybe. So is Trump really going after the real source of power? Or is he doing a lot of all this noise about going after low-level, easy-to-target bureaucrats? Maybe that was the deal. You say that you're going after the deep state, and you go after the bureaucrats, and that way you make the American government machinery even more efficient, the way Elon Musk did. What's the DOG, Department of Government Efficiency? That's a new thing that they have proposed, and Elon Musk will be part of that. Maybe he will head that. So they will cut down the bloat and go after the bureaucrats, but that doesn't change anything up high where the real power lies. So is Trump really going after the deep state? Or is he actually empowering the deep state and making their governance machinery way more powerful than it has ever been before? That's the question. And it looks like he's not going after the people who are really in power, the shadowy figures behind all the scenes, who wield the real power, who are way more powerful than the president and the government of the US. He's not going after them. He dare not go after them. So has he kissed the ring? I will leave it for you to answer. Has he kissed the ring?